Hello and welcome to AI4. Our next session will be led by DEEPTHI Chandrasekaran. She is the Manager of Strategic Planning and Transformation at National Grid. Please join me in welcoming DEEPTHI to the virtual stage.
Thank you, Patricia.
It's all yours.
Thank you. So today I'm going to be talking about how AI can be embedded within utility companies' DNA. It's almost hard not to start off with the COVID impact that we're all facing today. You already are all aware of different types of impacts that are happening within your industries, but I just wanted to touch upon three main ones that are specifically more important, I think, from a utility industry standpoint. The first one is around the economic uncertainties. Just in general, we don't know in terms of how exactly when the economy will come back up, and not necessarily back to what it was before, but back from where it is right now. And there are different forecasts out there, that provide different views on how that's going to play out in the next few years. But certainly there's a lot more to be figured out. And also just in terms of the transformations that we're seeing from retail and travel in the oil industry are just transformational. And also the high unemployment that's, as part of these impacts that's affecting almost all communities is just phenomenal as well. So that really impacts our customers' ability to pay, and because of the financial hardship that they're facing now and will continue to face for a few years down the line. And in terms of like the social distancing due to the COVID and the resurgence that might potentially happen, throughout this year as well as next year until a vaccine or found, which is just an uncertain in terms of how the workplace would really be different. Currently, a lot of people are working from home. What that future would look like, would it still be the same, or would it be some sort of a hybrid, is all up in the air. And in terms of like from a utility company standpoint, there are quite a few employees who actually work in the field. So how would they be social distancing, and what sort of how can they provide the services in a safe and reliable manner is a challenge, and the utility companies are doing their best to provide that in a quality manner. And in addition to all of this, we continue to face the climate change problem, and the utilities are working to working towards the clean energy goals by 2030 and 2050. The 2030 goals are essentially set by different states, and they have different standards on what the targets are that you need to achieve. And the 2050 is essentially your 80% reduction in greenhouse gas emissions by the year 2050. What all of this states is that you have these tremendous potential and opportunities in certain areas, and data analytics really helps solve a lot of these. And that's widely used in the industry, but AI is still just, not unlocked at all. And we're really skimming the surface in terms of what it can do. So what I wanted to show you is how is AI being used today? This is a survey that was done across the energy and utility industry. And what you see is the different type of use cases around natural language processing, computer vision, and machine learning that's being used across the different areas here. The transmission and distribution is more pertinent to the utility like National Grid. And as you can see, across the utilities, it's about 14 to 30%, that's actually being worked on. And primarily, the natural language processing use cases fall under customer service areas. How do you provide, better services for the customer when they call in or when they chat with you online, and connecting you with the right resources or the right customer agents to resolve the issues for you. From a computer vision standpoint, it's more around how can you detect certain field assets and can you tag them and improve the data accuracy in your databases so that you can provide better reporting and compliance for your work. And in terms of machine learning, that's building upon in many cases around the computer vision and really around the area of predictive maintenance. You know, how can you determine which assets need servicing ahead of time? Can you prevent leaks ahead of time? Those type of use cases are really the crux of the machine learning today. A lot of this is, you know, typically the companies start off, you know, testing or piloting in a specific small areas. And, you know, sometimes it's really successful and sometimes it's not. But even when it is successful, it's really hard for those solutions to really move out of those teams and, you know, be applicable, you know, elsewhere in the company. So that's really a hindrance to how do you really get the AI, how do you really embrace it and identify where the potentials are within your company. And I think this is where looking at it from your looking at it from your strategic priorities, what are your company's priorities, you know, and how can you provide value in driving towards that vision of your company? And how do you change or reframe your employee mindset around these solutions? Because there's a lot of preconceived notions in terms of how you would use these solutions, how it's applicable. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that the employees are involved and you are providing the right type of reskilling or change management across that areas. I would like to talk about a framework which I think would be useful in terms of how to really embed the AI into your strategic goals. This is really starting off, you know, with your company strategy. What are your strategic goals? In our case, for National Grid, it's around our customers, our communities, and our people. And we really think about how do we provide clean energy for our customers and communities, and how do we enable them to access it? How can we make sure that the bills are affordable for all our customers? And how do we empower our people to provide great performance? So these are some of the areas that we think about and, you know, what our goals should be. And when you think about, okay, then how do I really achieve those goals? You can break it down into the capabilities you would need in order to achieve them, and what maturity level you would need in order to move towards those targets, and when you would need them by. Once you break that down, you can then start to look at, you know, how can AI help mature those capabilities? In some areas, it may not be applicable, but in some areas, there's tremendous potential. And when I mean capabilities in this sense, I'm talking about business capabilities like asset management, your regulatory management, or your network planning, things like that. And once you're able to identify certain areas where AI can help, what do you really need to enable those solutions? So here's an example of how to work through that framework. Taking the specific example of, you know, making our customer bills affordable. And this is really a problem an issue that the industry faces even before COVID. It's not just as a result of COVID, but the COVID has added pressure onto this. So this is one of the most topic that's on, you know, everyone's mind. And we want to make sure that, okay, how can we do that? How do we make it affordable, continue to keep it affordable, right? In that sense, then you start to look at how can we improve our efficiencies, because that has a direct impact on the affordability piece of it. And when you look at where can you improve your efficiencies, there are a couple of areas that you could think about where it's work management and data management. And from a work management perspective, you could aspire to improve efficiency by X% on certain years. And then from a data management perspective, you could look to improve the accuracy, thereby improving the overall efficiency of that team or that specific set of businesses. And if you were to then ask a question where AI can really help in these areas, I think you would be able to break it down pretty quickly and identify where specific areas might lie. Here's an example of once you do look at the work management, and in this particular case, looking at your gas pipelines, looking at your gas business, how do you think through your AI solution? You can't have an autonomous intelligence day one and of that solution. You need to evolve it to there. So what you would want to start off with is where are the areas for assisted intelligence? And this is an example of crews take a lot of time locating gas pipelines. How can you help improve that process? And if they are able to locate the gas pipelines, then they're able to do their work and build upon it, and that results in efficiency. Once you have that, then the next evolution of that solution is how do you now get it to the augmented intelligence? And that's really looking at now you have identified where the assets are and how the crew can really get to it pretty quickly. How do you really help them figure out which work that they should go to and improve the gas leaks or gas maintenance pipelines? And throughout this evolution of your solution, you are still gaining efficiencies, and that translates directly into certain saving dollars. And those dollars directly now impact the affordability that you are now trying to get to. So all throughout the solution, you are still going closer to achieving your goals while you are moving towards going towards an AI solution. And then the ultimate aspect of this type of solution would be, where you can dispatch resources and the crews at the right place at the right time and do preventative maintenance. Like that would be the all amazing solution to have, right? And that would tremendously improve efficiencies from resource planning and work planning standpoint. And that can get directly translated now into your operational efficiencies and dollars and impact your goal again. Here's an example of how we are working with assisted intelligence today. Let me play this video for you. We are using augmented reality to help crews locate their underground assets. Let me just bring that up. So this is a view on an iPhone, and a person's walking with it. So the lines that you see are essentially underground assets. The blue is the water line, the green is the gas line, yellow is the sewer line. And this is mocked up data, so you're not really seeing a whole lot of details in here. But as the person clicked on a particular asset, it brings up the details of the materials. It can bring up information on when was it last serviced, what type of maintenance was done on it, and who did it and when. So you can get tremendous information by just scrolling over your assets. And also, if the crew needs to identify where specifically some of these lines are running, it's just amazing. It's right in front of you. Now, it looked like the lines were moving. That's really just from that person's frame of reference. The pipelines are not moving. It just looks that way. So that was really an example of, you could clearly see how easy it would be for the crew to locate their assets quickly and how quickly they can get to doing the work that they need to do. In addition to this, what this solution also allows you to do is improve the data accuracy. The crews can essentially adjust the asset information that they see, if anything is inaccurate or not updated on the fly, and be able to correct the asset location if that's off from the original, what it was laid out. And this can get updated pretty quickly. And what's great about this is that all the field crew have the solution at their tip of their hands, and the crews are out every day. So your data is constantly updated or kept up to date, I should say, and is accurate. And this is a tremendous improvement from if you were to have a dedicated team trying to maintain the accuracy of the data and then trying to do reports and generate insights from that as a result of that. So now we talked about, how you want to think about solutions and how it can fit within the framework of the strategic goals for your company, and how these AI solutions can translate into benefits that really matter to the company. The other part of it is, focusing on the talent. What are some of the challenges related to that? This is a survey that was done recently around AI and using robotic process automation tools. What they found was these are the top areas where they found challenges in terms of limited efforts to reskill, difficult to retain employees resistance to learning, etc. These are specifically, a lot of times these issues rise because when a solution is implemented, the end users don't necessarily get the right training, right understanding of how to use the solution and how to really incorporate some of those insights into their processes. Now, there have been a lot of changes to how companies do that these days, through the methodologies like design thinking, to make sure that the end user is kept in mind and tested with them as you're developing your solution. So that certainly helps design your solution to what they need, but there is still a lot around if you do provide some sort of an AI solution or a solution that's evolving, through the course of years, how will their work change? And what type of skill sets should they have to be able to interpret that data or use that insight the right way? Or what kind of skill sets do they need to ask the right questions to be able to work with that solution? So these are some of the things that we need to think about, when you're looking at AI solution. And broadly, when you want to, open it up to the rest of the company to be really able to have different employees think about the solutions, brainstorm, start developing, you certainly do need to reskill some of the employees who can be trained in certain areas of analytics or specific AI techniques, and need to think about how can you really share those resources to be able to develop the solution. In terms of the area around the technological awareness, we need to think about how, as a result of embedding AI solutions through your strategic strategy and the strategic goals, I think you would have an easier time having your leadership buy into the solution, because they would have a clear understanding of the value that you would bring in. So what this all means is that there is an aspect of behavioral change that you need to think about. How will the work change, as a result of the solution? What kind of mindsets and environment do you need for the analytics to flourish? What sort of broader ecosystem can you leverage to train your staff? So this is thinking at universities or startups or companies that specialize in data analytics training. And also lastly, understanding whether the analytics or upskilling strategy is working or not for your company. And if it's not, I think you should pivot quickly. And examples of these is you developed a solution or you're in the midst of it and you clearly see that it's not providing the value that you think it should be providing. And I think you should quickly assess whether you should continue or stop it or redesign it. And in terms of a lot of initiatives, initially you get the you get the sponsorship of the leaders, but then that momentum kind of slows down. So how can you maintain that momentum from, or the champions, without getting that fatigue? They're just interested, they said, yes, go ahead, do the solution, but then not really, having that support sustained throughout. So there could be some traditional ways of using communications like webinars and like town halls to be able to really showcase that sponsorship. Also doing different types of activities like hackathons or so, which would be a little hard to do in this environment with people working from home, but there might be some creative ways in which, you can implement some of those things. So overall, really trying to take a look at how do you think about your solution, AI solution, from a strategic standpoint, and as well as from a behavioral standpoint for your employees, and how do you really think through that in terms of the value it's providing, and would you really need to change to provide that value? I hope this framework was helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, DEEPTHI. We really enjoyed that insightful presentation, and a big virtual round of applause from the audience. All right, if you're looking for your next session, you can go ahead and check out the program page to find where you're going next. Also, take some time to connect with your peers through some networking sessions. We'll see you around.